Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Captain Logan Show, the newly rebranded Captain Logan Show. I am, of course, Captain Logan. This show previously was called the Live Open Forum, but I have decided to rebrand, call it something else. I had this notion recently, and it kind of made a lot of sense to me because I'm all by myself. I'm all by my lonesome, and I thought it might maybe be more of an all-exclusive title and invite people to watch after the fact. Open Forum kind of screams, be there on the day, and it kind of doesn't matter if you're not. And we have a fun time here and a lot of really cool, insightful questions, and I want to make sure that as many people as possible get to hear them because you guys are wonderful and delightful, and I get a lot of brain power going on this show. I happen to talk about things that I wouldn't otherwise think to bring up. So anyway, the Captain Logan Show, not renumbering, not doing that Marvel DC thing, but changing the name of the show. This is our 10th week now. Wasn't here last week because I had a dentist appointment. I had to go to the dentist. So I didn't have another good day. So anyway, but my teeth are great, if you're wondering. So thanks a lot for asking if you were going to ask that. Anyway, moving right along, thanks always to Danny Nixon, helped me out with the show. Danny is once again chat moderating, and he's going to be sending me all of the questions today. So if your question doesn't get answered, Danny is doing his level best to give me as many as we can get to in an hour. And he's always prioritizing folks who haven't had a chance to get their question answered yet. So it's okay to ask more than one question, but don't expect every question to get answered. And we will get to you if we can. At the risk of taking up more time, more of the time we usually would use for live questions, I'm also going to start with this show, changing things up just a little bit, answering 3 questions, just 3 from Facebook before we get started. I put out Facebook and Twitter. I put out a post this morning and said, hey, I know some folks aren't able to make it to the show. We do a lot of Q&A these days on the channel, and I keep thinking maybe we should scale that back, but we get so many questions and such a great variety of them that I haven't felt the need to do that yet, and which is, as I keep saying, the reason that I'm doing the show every week. So we also do a Q&A section, the letters pages on the open forum, and if you want to ask Eric questions, that's the place to do that. But I thought it would be cool, especially for folks that usually are able to be here and can't make it, if we did a couple of pre-written questions, and that gives Danny a chance to get a lot of you guys' questions in the queue and ready to go and strategizing what he wants to throw at me. So that's part of why we're doing that as well. So feel free to start asking your questions right now. Please don't spam the chat for Danny. Get your question in there once. He will see it. And away we go. Let's go ahead and get right into it, shall we? First of all, like I said, a couple questions from Facebook. We're going to do 3, and I'm going to grab them right now. The first one comes from Daniel Slagle, who asks, do you ever get burnt out on constant news about superhero movies in development? And yeah, I don't know if burnt out is the right question, or rather is the right way to express how I end up feeling about that when there's a lot of it. It's more just not always knowing what actually is definitely for sure true, where the news came from. Sometimes sources get weird. Very often I'll think that a piece of news is legitimate that turns out to come from a website that's not credible, but I didn't know it wasn't credible, and that can be really irritating. Or things that get announced and very quickly get kind of unannounced, or you don't hear about for a long time, and then they go away. And so, you'll get excited about things and it turns out they're not there, or you'll make a video about it and it will accidentally look clickbaity because you just want to talk about this thing that turns out that's happening, and then it turns out that it's not true. And so then it can, to people, make it look like you just put that out to get views when you really just thought that was actually happening. And so that can be irritating too, I guess, for folks like me that talk about this stuff on a regular basis. But also, again, not exactly burnout, but just I don't like to know too much about stuff, and I always talk about this, or I don't like to know too much about a movie before I go see it, and it's difficult to know where to draw that line sometimes. So, like, I don't like to I don't keep up really hard with news, but it just comes at me. People send me things all the time, and it's really difficult to avoid doing what I do and being in the circles that I'm in. So I'll find out about things, and then I can't help but talk about them when I know about them. And people will, ask me to chat about things, and speculation can be interesting and fun. But as I've said a lot, in a perfect world, I would not even look at trailers really. I don't like to have my perceptions clouded too much, and I, go in with too many preconceived notions that I wouldn't already have just based on what little you can't help but know about a thing before you go in and see it. So yeah, I don't know that I get burnout so much as just I'm never comfortable and satisfied with the sheer amount of stuff I end up having to know about stuff. I'm not looking at the chat right now, so I will go back and look at that and say hi to folks and stuff here in a second, but I want to answer a couple more of these real quick before I go look over at that. This is an interesting one. Tyler Thompson, who are some of your favorite female Marvel characters? And I started thinking about this, and I realized that a lot of the ladies that I like in comics are DC characters. And obviously the last few years, Marvel has been pushing really hard to grow their female character base. I think female reader base too, certainly. But I think I think Marvel became keenly aware at some point that Marvel was looking like kind of just a massive boys club. And obviously we've always had some kind of interesting female characters in X-Men, but beyond that, not a ton of especially singular female books. And DC has always kind of had more of the market cornered on that, and has just kind of catered more to that. And so a lot of my favorite female characters in comics are DC characters, but I thought of a couple. Rogue I've always liked, but I don't know as much as I'd like to about her. Same thing with Kitty Pryde. I've read, quite a bit of X-Men, but I feel like I haven't ended up reading as many stories about those characters as maybe I would like to. So I've always kind of liked Rogue in theory, but I don't know a whole lot about her. More villains though, really. Growing up, I always liked Black Cat a lot. I always thought she was a lot of fun, and for whatever reason, more interesting to me than Catwoman a lot of the time. And it's very easy to look at Black Cat as kind of a Catwoman knockoff, but I always I was liked her relationship with Spider-Man, and I always thought that they kind of went together better than Batman and Catwoman. And I always liked the idea of Spider-Man or really any superhero dating or at least trying to date somebody that also had superpowers. And it seems like if you dated somebody that also lived in that world, you'd immediately have more in common. You'd understand each other better. And I always want more, and like it would be cool to see a continuity where Spider-Man and Black Cat actually kind of worked out, and Black Cat didn't have to just keep going on being a thief or even turn into the Kingpin, which is a thing I've never really cared for. But I hope at some point maybe we turn that around and get away from that. But I always thought it would be cool to have a superhero that just regularly was, or maybe even married, another superhero, and because that's the kind of thing we don't do all the time. And I've always liked Mystique a lot, but I think that's more because of movies than it is comics. But she's always, interesting and mysterious and stuff when she shows up in things. Elektra sometimes, but then more recently, I love Spider-Gwen, and I really like Gwenpool a lot. I think she's hysterical. And that whole concept is just really interesting. Last question from the Facebook comments. Christian Scott, do you think you'd ever do a per season superhero rewind type thing for Smallville? In fact, that is currently the plan. So people keep asking me about Canon Crypto Freaks, and I talked about this a few weeks ago, but there's new developments with this. So I mean, nobody get excited. There's not new developments in the sense that I'm about to put out another one. I wish I could, but I'll tell you why that's not going to happen. So here's the thing. I have been streamlining, as you can tell, really hard, getting my focus back to Superhero Rewind and doing that kind of written stuff and trying to get it out as often as possible. And last 4 weeks in a row, I've gotten a Rewind out, and really excited about that, and really excited about the response. And thanks everybody for watching those, and for your feedback and for your enthusiasm and encouragement. This has been the best month for me with Geekvolution in a long time. It's been absolutely wonderful, and I've been having a lot of fun with it, and excited that I've been able to juggle that at all with the Geekvolution Omnibus. After my wife and our next baby is born, we'll have to scale some things back a little bit, but I'm still going to write as much as humanly possible. So I tried out that Power Rangers season overview to see if I could do that in a week. And I was able to knock it out, and it was crazy. And I think that's easier with Power Rangers because as I'm taking notes, I don't have to pause the thing as often because it's just, not as much thinking involved, not as much sophisticated storytelling as really in any TV drama that you might want to do a whole season overview for. But my plan right now is to so that I don't know, it was kind of a test to see if I could do that, and I with something. I thought that was a good first run thing to try that with. And then my thought was down the road I would occasionally do a whole season overview instead of as many top 10 lists for Superhero Rewind, and that's where I'm gonna try to get back to Smallville with. So Counting Crypto Freaks is pretty much done. I'm not going to be able to make any more of those, and I hate that. That's not to say that I might not occasionally on Rewind do a singular episode review of something. I've considered doing that as well. I haven't done one yet, but there might be some of those for Smallville if I start doing those, especially like big episodes that that I like or are notoriously bad, or that other people really want me to talk about, where I would do kind of a smaller, I don't want to say mini Rewind, because there's a lot of short things that I could talk about for a really long time. Some of those Counting Crypto Freaks episodes were half an hour, and so it wouldn't be necessarily real far away from the length of a normal Superhero Rewind. But part of the reason that I'm having to stop that show is for the same reason that I had to go to audio only with Superhero Rewind, which is I can't use stills anymore. And Counting Crypto Freaks has gotten hit really hard, just like Rewind did. And the most recent episode isn't even available anymore anywhere. It wasn't just flagged, it was blocked worldwide. And if Counting Crypto Freaks is getting blocked, I can't post them. And so, yeah, I could continue that show also audio only. For whatever reason, I like that even less with Counting Crypto Freaks than I do with Rewind. I think part of it is because it's a shorter show. It was always kind of meant to be looked at. The visual component I used more for comedy on that show. It's a real snarky kind of show. And I'm sure that when I do season overviews for Rewind, some of that snarkiness will still be there. It's Smallville, and it's just the way I feel about that show. And so I would like to. I definitely want to finish that and talk about each season. And but it's not going to be episode by episode discussions anymore. And it's unfortunate, but it's a sacrifice I feel like I have to make, especially if I can't be sure that people are going to be able to see it. So folks that were following that with me and trying to watch each episode as I was going along, I'm really sorry about it. And I'm sorry about how long we made that show and then still had to drop it. I'm really proud of the work that I did with that. And it was a lot of fun, and I'm going to miss it. And that title was one of my favorite things that we came up with. But it's going to have to finish Rewind form. But the answer to that question is yes. That is the way that I will end up finishing that show. Okay, let's get to the comments or to the live comments. And let me bring up my stream right now and say hi to everybody. What's up, folks? How are you doing? Who do we have here? We've got Andrew Follett is in the chat. We got Blue Dragon 5. We got G Stone. Grady Childs is there. Jeffrey Patron. Magpie is in there. William Parcell, John Early, everybody's here, or at least a whole lot of folks here. I don't want to say everybody. Sorry if you couldn't make it, but as always, thanks a lot for clicking after the fact. If you're watching this later on, Mario 500 now, good to see everybody. How's it going? Jason's there in the comments. He's watching upstairs. Hello, Jason. Okay, so why don't we go ahead and get to some of your questions, folks, and I'm going to knock out just as many as I can within the next 50 minutes or so. Michael McAllister, do you think that there's a chance that the Silver Surfer shows up in an Infinity War Part 2? Likewise, do you think it will be nearly as cosmic as the comic? I think there is zero chance whatsoever of that happening unless it was added in a reshoot. So we know that they shot those movies back to back, and that like 2 is, I don't know if it's still filming, but I know that it was. It's either already principal photography is at least finished, or it's in the middle of it right now. I have not been keeping such a close eye on it to even know if it's filming right now. I just know that those are being shot back to back, and that enough is known about it, and scenes have been shot from that a lot of the actors are, when they will talk about things with those movies, you don't know if they're talking about Avengers 3 or Avengers 4. The Fox buyout from Disney hasn't even been finalized yet. There's a lot of talk that that's finally going to happen by the fall, but it's not going to be early enough. And we're still hearing Fox talk a lot about potential Fantastic Four things, and especially a Doctor Doom movie. And so there's really no chance, I don't think. That's not to say that when that buyout happens, and I say when because I still think that's definitely going to happen. When that buyout happens, it's possible that they find ways to merge whatever it is they're working on right now with MCU in kind of a similar fashion well, sort of with Sony, except Sony's also doing their own things connected to Spider-Man that aren't supposed to be in MCU. It's very confusing, and you guys just wait, because general audiences are going to have no idea what's going on with that. They're going to be like, wait, there's this Venom thing, but it's not in MCU, and especially if there is a Spider-Man cameo, it's like, but then how is that not in the same? Is it vague and supposed to be sort of part of it, but it doesn't matter? I don't know what's going on, and general audiences are going to have their minds blown by that, and they're not going to know what in the world's happening, and that's obnoxious. But anyway, I digress. So short answer, no, certainly not. Longer answer, retroactively, and also Silver Surfer. There is potentially, or I'm sorry, apparently also a Silver Surfer movie in the works, or at least they're talking about it at Fox. And so, especially with that going on, there's no way. But that doesn't mean that eventually that stuff won't all get integrated. Likewise, do you think it will be nearly as cosmic as the comic? I guess we'll see. I mean, when and if finally that either gets made at Fox, I just don't know. Or you know, either that gets made at Fox, or it gets made at MCU, or it gets made at Fox and they merge them. MCU is not afraid of cosmics. Is not totally afraid of cosmic stuff. They're doing, you know, obviously big space adventure, big some kind of cosmic ideas with Guardians of the Galaxy and stuff. I got to see Infinity War before I have a sense of how far they're willing to go with that stuff, or if they're going to be a little bit trepidatious about it, like they are with the magic with Doctor Strange. So I don't know. I'm optimistic about it though. With at least on the MCU side, who knows what Fox ends up doing with it? Although my instincts tell me with after Deadpool that Fox is maybe even more likely than Marvel to just let and even if they work autonomously when they get bought out, they're likely to just let a director do whatever a director wants to do, and not really hold the reins too hard, and take maybe crazy risks. I think you might get a crazier, more out there Kirby-esque Silver Surfer movie from Fox than you would from MCU. I don't know. Do you guys agree with that? I'd love to hear from some people. Magpie's Nest Productions, are you still doing the rewinds for Geeks United? I know that's a blast from the past. Yeah. Somebody else asked about that on Facebook, and it just wasn't one of the questions I selected. So I'm glad you asked that. I would like to do more of those. There are still, I hate to say, there are still a few from years ago that people requested when they bought my book all those years ago that I never ended up getting to with Geeks United. And I still have that list. I would like to do those. Now that I'm getting back to Rewind on a regular basis, I think it's safe to say that that's likely to happen. I don't know if some of those folks are still around and still want to see those things reviewed. I know it's been a lot of years. I just let time get away from me. And I'm doing more things than just superhero. I'm doing a lot of superhero right now, just kind of playing catch up, but I'm doing science fiction rewind, and I kind of want to focus on those. A lot of the things that were asked for in Geeks United fit in that mold. So things that you might think about from Rewind United, as at one time as things that would go in that show are things that would just be in a science fiction rewind. But there were things like I bought a copy of this a couple of years ago to review it for that and never got around to it. There was somebody asked for Army of Darkness, and obviously that's not a science fiction movie, that's more of a horror thing. So I would do it in the Rewind United banner because I'm not a horror expert, and I kind of don't want to make a series called Horror Movie Rewind. We had Horror Movie Rewind. Somebody asked about that earlier too. Vince started that, and then Rasco did it. And now we're not doing the Seven thing, and we're not doing solo content from anybody but me and Eric right now. So Horror Movie Rewind is probably not going to come back in any capacity. At least there's no plans for that right now. But as far as the But as far as the Rewind United thing goes, I do want to do movies that aren't necessarily in those categories, and I'm willing to do some things that aren't genre. I prefer to do genre, but I'm also a big character piece guy, and so I like getting outside of my comfort zone and doing and in some ways getting into a different comfort zone with things that are more literary, because I think I'm pretty decent at reviewing things like that don't necessarily have anything to do with the supernatural or spacey stuff. But yeah, I do feel bad. I am remiss about the Geeks United thing and letting time get away from me with stuff with some of that stuff. So I got most of them done, but there are still a few, and I do want to get to those most assuredly. So anyway, Oscar Stavemeyer, what are your favorite superhero team ups? Oh, that's a good question. A lot of, I guess, obvious ones. I get questions like this, and I don't want to, and I want to come up with like that really cool thing that nobody would ever think to say. But Spider-Man and Deadpool certainly, or Spider-Man and Deadpool, excuse me, Spider-Man and Daredevil certainly, I always enjoy seeing a lot. Other superhero team ups. I'm suddenly just thinking of like intercompany crossovers right now, but like just regular team ups. Really, Batman with just about anybody, right? Like I always kind of like the brave and the bold thing. It's always interesting comparing Batman's ideology and worldview to other people in the DC universe, especially other people with superpowers. I guess Batman and Superman, because there are so many different ways to write that duo, and beyond that, I mean, like I'm trying to think. Wolverine. And I guess Wolverine and Punisher can be kind of interesting. And Punisher is a character that I really only like to see when he's with other people anyway. So I guess that's part of why I'm saying that. But also, I guess kind of Wolverine with anybody. It's kind of more like characters that I like to see in team ups more than I like to see them alone, I guess, is more the things I'm thinking of. Andrew Follett, what's your take on the DreamWorks film Megamind? I'm personally excited to see you eventually tackle on a rewind. Would you believe it? I've never seen that. I have a copy. I bought it years ago. I've never gotten around to it. I didn't see it when it came out. And I may try to put it on one of the polls for the Rewind selection board. I would, I'm sorry, I'm stuck on this Rewind United thing because, like I said, I do feel bad about the ones I didn't get to, and I would feel a lot worse if people had made donations and they didn't get a packet of a bunch of other stuff with it. That was kind of an extra thing on top of my book and some other things that came with that. But we got some questions that are things that I was trepidatious about and wasn't sure that anybody would want to see me review because I said I'd do anything in those. And one of them was like the South Park movie and things like that. And I'm willing to do it, and it would be interesting. I just don't know how much interest there is in it. But I would love to hear from anybody that's still around that did that asked for those and didn't get your movie review. Because like I said, I did most of them, but there are still like 5 or 6. And like one of them was Blade Runner, but that's in the queue right now. That's going to be in the not too distant future on Science Fiction Rewind. I have plans for a couple of them, but anyway, hit me up if there's one of those that you requested and you never got, because I do kind of feel bad about it. Let's see what else. Stefano, were you able to finish Dark Knight's Metal? Saw in the first omnibus you were really intrigued by it. Was wondering what your thoughts are on it now that it's concluded. I'm a broken record, but I'm insanely behind on comics. So I have a copy of the last issue I've read, or maybe I haven't read the last couple. I think I haven't read the last couple. I have been real remiss in comics in the last few months, and especially recently because I've been focusing so hard on movies and Rewind and stuff. So, no, I've not finished it yet. And Eric and I are focusing a lot more on reviewing complete story arcs right now. So I'm not talking as much about the singles and arcs as they're going in the first place. I kind of like to tackle things all together at the moment. So we are going to do that, I'm sure, in the not too distant future. Because I want to finish it, and Eric and I loved it, and I talked a little bit about the side books, the one shots, which I liked, which I loved, and kind of liked better at the time anyway, because I haven't finished the whole book, but I was liking that even better than the main book. Tons of questions, just tons of stuff coming. Michael McAllister says me tackling the South Park movie would be hilarious. Oh, I just noticed this one, so I'll answer it real quick. Blue Dragon 5 asking about Suicide Squad Hell to Pay. We're going to try to put that on the next omnibus, and I haven't watched it yet, so we will tackle that soon. But I just saw that he had mentioned it. He said after Suicide Squad Hell to Pay, are you looking more forward to Death of Superman? I don't know because I haven't seen it yet. But yeah, I don't have huge high hopes for Death of Superman yet because I haven't really cared for that 52 inspired universe. Scott McCall, what are your expectations for Deadpool 2? Oh wow. I expect it to be even raunchier. But beyond that, I don't know. Like, I don't really know exactly what that movie's going to do, but versus just what I'm hoping it will do. My really optimistic expectation is it gets closer to Joe Kelly, and we get more into Deadpool's psychology, and we deal more with the idea that he's not a hero, can't be a hero, wish that he could, and he tries, but he fails, and it just doesn't work. And his characterization is so much of a blend of the Joe Kelly Deadpool and a more modern, I mean, even that Deadpool is goofy and fourth wall breaking, but where that's the main point of Deadpool, there's kind of a blend of those two things. And so I don't know, even with that first movie, if we can really go there, but I'm excited about how much screen time it looks like, at least from the trailers, his supporting cast is getting. And that wasn't a given after the first movie for me. So like, I wasn't even sure, how much screen time his girlfriend would get, and it looks like she's back and all over that movie. And I want to see some stuff done with Blind Al and see her really fleshed out as a character. I'm also hoping for a lot more just satire and commentary about with the fourth wall breaking stuff anyway, about where superhero movies are right now. There was some great stuff in the first movie that I think we could take that even farther, and I want to, and I would love it to get even more meta. I'd love Deadpool to not only know that he's in a movie, but to eventually, if not in this movie, somewhere, get to a place where we're doing more of a Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe thing, where he starts to maybe like blame the filmmakers for doing things to him and that kind of thing. Because that's the stuff with the self-aware, knows he's a fictitious Deadpool, that a fictional character, that's the stuff that I love about the fourth wall breaking thing. And I'd like to be less than a gimmick, and for us to actually make it a little bit more part of the storytelling. But beyond that, I guess I expect it to expand the pseudo X-Men Marvel universe that's not exactly what the other X-Men stuff is with after Apocalypse. It's very confusing, but I guess I didn't immediately realize that movie was going to establish X-Force, and we got that in the most recent trailer, and I'm sure that's a thing people knew, and I just either had forgotten or didn't know about, not keeping up that hard. But there's been a lot of talk about an X-Force movie. I'm expecting that because that first movie was so big, there's a big strategy going on now to try to build an expanded universe with Deadpool. That's weird because it's an expanded universe you have already, but starting from that kind of tonal place, and maybe keeping things a little bit more consistent than we have managed to do with the X-Men movies. It's going to be weird if we ever try to finally connect those things up again more than we are right now, because we still have the X-Men movies in the past, and then we have Deadpool expanding things and in present day, and that's what more fans are interested in right now. And so it makes sense that that's where Fox is putting its money and its focus. But it's and who knows what's going to end up happening with the now pushed back Dark Phoenix movie. But it's really weird. It feels almost like we have two different shared X-Men universes right now, even though they are connected, at least insofar as Deadpool knows that they don't quite match up, and it's weird. So yeah, Spider-Man Sidekick 1. Thoughts on Michael Bay maybe directing Lobo? Talked about that a few weeks ago on the Geekvolution Omnibus. I don't really have anything to add about it. If you haven't heard my thoughts, they won't surprise you. That seems like a bad idea. He doesn't strike me as the right director for that kind of thing, and I would want it to be more like somebody working on Deadpool. than I would somebody who makes these you know, big giant just kind of slam bang action movies. And like I guess Michael Bay likes some raunchy humor. I guess in that way his sensibilities are maybe okay for it, but like he doesn't do a lot of, you know, singular character, you know, kind of character piece things, which is what I would think Lobo would be. I mean, like, yeah, there would be a huge action component to it, and it would be it would be, you know, this big rated R thing that's for adults, and I can see why he would want to make that, but I don't see him being right for it. Honestly, I think I can't remember his name. The director of Suicide Squad, I think would be a better choice for that. Moving right along, Dave Atkins, thoughts on Sonic Mania Plus? Another thing that I talked about a couple of weeks ago, but yeah, I'm glad that we're finally getting a physical copy for that. I'm excited about the extra content, and I'm glad that we're going to get some more stuff. We're getting 2 new characters, and I don't think we're getting new levels, but we're getting new types of play. So they're going to do like a I think there's supposed to be a 4-player split screen for multiplayer, which is kind of a fun idea. I don't know how many people are even playing multiplayer with Sonic Mania. I always liked that was a feature. It's not a thing I ever did a whole lot of growing up with Sonic, but it's kind of fun to be able to race people. I could see eventually doing a 2D side-scrolling Sonic game that was a racing game. It was more about racing, and if this 4-player thing catches on, I could see us down the road maybe seeing something like that. And I'm still curious about this whole Sonic R thing. I don't mean that they're making another Sonic R necessarily, but there was recently a there was recently like a logo where Sega was making a big deal out of this cryptic new Sonic thing, and they just put the letter R. Like maybe it's a racing game. I don't know what exactly it's going to be, but I'm curious about that. But anyway, yeah, I wish we had gotten a physical copy in the first place. Whole lot of things I wish with Sonic Mania, just for myself, my own person. That game came out just before I bought a Switch. I wish I'd bought it on Switch in the first place, so that I could take that on the go. And now I'm gonna buy the new one when it re-releases on the Switch. But it kind of sucks to have to rebuy it, I guess, especially because I got the collector's edition, which is awesome, but it already really sucked that didn't come with a physical copy. And now after getting that big you're getting the thing with the big honking statue and everything, it's kind of ridiculous that I'm gonna have to pay again for that game. But it's only $30. It's nice that price point is staying cheap. So yeah, I'm glad that's coming out. What else? Cinematographic. How you doing, Cap? I'm okay. That's your question. Moving on. No, I'm kidding. Do you think G.I. Joe, The Rise of Cobra, assuming you've seen it, handles its origin better than either of the FF movies? I have not seen that movie, so I'm sorry I can't comment on that. I wish Eric was here because he has, and would have many things to say about that. But unfortunately, I cannot weigh in. Before I get to some more questions, let me talk a little bit about stuff going on the channel right now and this week. You might have noticed that we really oversaturated things today. Some stuff that was supposed to come out yesterday, coming out today. So our 3 biggest shows this week, well, theoretically, because I'm trying to get a Batman Year video up this week as well, hopefully by Friday. So I guess that will be the 4th biggest video this week. But the 3 big videos kind of for us this week are the Super Rewind I just posted, and then the omnibus, and this show. I do this every week. So everything coming up today that most people are going to care about. So the Geek Evolution omnibus, that title almost doesn't even work anymore because the show has gotten so long. I keep having to post it into. Danny and I were laughing about this last night. So the first part of the Geek Evolution omnibus came up today, and it's Power Ranger themed. Go check it out. It's a lot of fun, and a lot more of the Power Ranger stuff is in the second half. We did the Power Rangers Trivial Pursuit in the first half. We did an hour-and-a-half discussion on all of the Boom comics, except for Power Rangers Pink, so covering Go-Go Power Rangers, the main Power Rangers book, the beginning of Shattered Grid, all that stuff. If you're into the Power Rangers comics, check that out. It's up right now on the Geek Evolution omnibus. I've got the timestamps in the description so that you can see where everything is that you might be interested in looking at. And then the second part will come up in a couple of days, and that's going to have a whole bunch of Power Rangers TV stuff, including a review of the most recent season, which is Ninja Steel. And we also cover some peripherally related to Power Rangers things, just in that they're also kind of tokusatsus, but not Power Rangers. So we talk about Kamen Rider Gaim in that, which I've been wanting to see forever, and is insane fun and wonderful. And I had so much fun watching that and talking about it. And then we also did the Guyver 2, the second Guyver movie. We watched for that show as well. So lots of weird, interesting things on that show. Check that out this week. And again, if you haven't noticed it yet, if you haven't seen it, brand new Superhero Rewind on the first X-Men movie, going all the way back 9 years, re-reviewing that movie. And the next one, because we met a Patreon goal, is going to be Guardians of the Galaxy. And gonna be working on that here in a couple of days as well to get that up as soon as I can. And then after that, for Rewind, I'm finally going to switch back over to Science Fiction Rewind. I got a $50 request from David Crabtree, who asked me to review the Transformers movie from 86, I think. And I'm gonna try to do an analysis on that. I can't imagine what that's gonna be like. That sounds really hard. I don't know what I'm gonna do with that movie. But I'm gonna try my hand on it. When I get a request, I never promise it's gonna be a good review. I just promise that I'm gonna do my level best and try my hand on it. So anyway, look forward to that. And away we go. J-Man, still excited for Spider-Man PS4? Yes, my interest and excitement for that movie, or for that game, has not waned. Yeah, I'm stoked about that. I don't know if we'll do a straight up playthrough on the channel. I just have not had a lot of time to do that kind of thing, but we'll certainly play it when it comes out as soon as I get the chance to get my mitts on it and play through it, and I will talk about it. What else? Donnie St. Pierre, Cap, let me switch over here because my phone is suddenly doing really weird things. Cap, if you could change the world so one industry, film, comics, movies, television, etc., was driven by story rather than money, which would you choose? That's interesting. Difficult to imagine a world where these kinds of commercial things, these kinds of commercial entertainments are suddenly somehow magically not commercial, and that's not always going to be a factor. And I would argue that sometimes that factor helps to give us things that we love in the way that we do. I think sometimes you should need that. For instance, you'd never have the fun thing Power Rangers is to me if it wasn't a toy commercial, for instance. But I'm with you. I care a lot more about why is this on. This is always off. I mean, the sound is. I don't know why the sound was on. Anyway, but yeah, obviously in a perfect world, I love everything to be the priority to be story driven first. So yeah, with I don't know, like which medium would I rather see that for? That's hard. I don't know. That feels like kind of that's a real arbitrary kind of question to me, because I don't see any medium as more legit than another medium. For me, so I mean, like, it's just, I like all those things, pretty much equally. I mean, I think the commercial nature of these things it can and is hurting stuff in every kind of medium. In my mind, it's worse with novels because people aren't reading. So I mean, like, if just right now in the here and now, like, which of those mediums is more important to me to see as being more story driven than commercial, I guess I would have to say novels, just because I don't like that that prose right now, so many writers are trying to make movies that are books. They don't really want to be book writers. They don't really appreciate that medium. What they really want to do is write screenplays and get movies made. And so they write and they don't have a good avenue to make that happen for themselves. So they write a novel and hope that it sells well and that somebody picks it up and then they can get a movie out of it. And I adore the short story medium and the novel medium. And I love the experience of having to do that kind of legwork and having the and helping to create a world that I'm reading in my own mind. Like it's a more active experience. I feel like I have to be doing some of the work in order to do that, and in order to make that world come alive. And I think some of the art is the artistry of that gets lost when you can tell that the person that's writing it just doesn't really like that kind of medium, and it holds them back. And that's really unfortunate. And also, I just think it's kind of disingenuous to make a thing just because you're hoping that you can eventually turn it into this other thing that you're really hoping that you can make. And so that first thing ends up being, more of a pitch, more of a audition than it is a piece of artwork in and of itself. So I don't know. Sometimes I have to talk these things out before I know what my answer is. But yeah, I guess it's novels. Mario 500 now. Have you ever seen a certain movie originally released in the calendar year 1992 named Cool World? If so, could you tell us how you felt regularly regarding its content? Okay, have I seen Cool World? And what did I think of it? Oops, sorry. No, I have not. That is my answer to that. I've still never watched that movie, so I have nothing to say about that. I always meant to. I was curious about it. I'd always heard that movie as being kind of like more adult and kind of raunchy Roger Rabbit, and I don't know if it worked. Sorry about that, guys. That was probably really loud, and now my knee hurts. But anyway, I will maybe try to finally watch that at some point. It was on Netflix at one time. I don't think it's streaming anywhere now, or at least if it is, I don't know about it. How much time do we have? About 20 minutes. William Parcell, which Marvel villains would you like to get introduced into the MCU in future films? I get this question all the time. I feel like I've kind of this one I think I've answered sufficiently. I don't really have a lot else to add. I think Kang is a big one and inevitable, and we need to see that eventually. One of the big major Avengers villains that we haven't really heard anybody at Marvel talk a lot about, but I know Avengers fans really love. I would love to see us go back and finally do the leader, who was established in Incredible Hulk, and we saw the pulsating vein head, but we didn't actually get him, in a movie, being the big villain. So obviously that's a thing that I would like to see come back, and with that actor, because he was wonderful and he was kind of perfect for it. But my big ones are all Fantastic Four and other, things that Fox owns. I'm hoping this is an MCU, but so obviously Galactus and stuff, and Doctor Doom. I'm hoping this is not MCU, but I'm hoping that Mr. Sinister actually ends up happening. There's a rumor right now that we're doing Mrs. Sinister, and that's going to happen instead of Mr. Sinister, and I'm not really excited about that. Maybe it'll change my mind and it'll end up being great, but I've wanted Mr. Sinister for years and years and years. So. And that just seems like a weird kind of counterintuitive choice, especially if we base it too much on what was actually done with her in the comics, because I'm pretty sure that's just Mr. Sinister in a woman's body. But I don't know a ton about that. So anyway, G Stone, who should play MCU Professor X? So the notion is that if Disney ends up, I think this question is interesting, given how concisely asked it was, because there's a lot of assumptions that are made with that, because it says who should play, almost implying that there would be an MCU Professor X. So the idea that some folks have is, and I don't fully subscribe to this, is that when the Fox buyout happens, again, when, probably not if, MCU would incorporate X-Men, and we would get X-Men in the Marvel Universe, and maybe you would still have also Fox X-Men, but you would end up with both, or some kind of a mixture or something. The more I'm thinking about it, and I've talked about this a lot, the more I'm thinking about it, the more I think it's not real likely that they just straight up reboot X-Men. I think it would be a lot more likely that they would integrate it and use that as kind of another soft reboot. But I don't know how smart it would be on Marvel's part to recast X-Men characters where people already really like the casting a lot. I don't see, I could be wrong, but I don't see like guys like Kevin Feige getting their hands on X-Men and saying, there's anybody better than McAvoy to play that part. I don't see them getting that and not saying, yay, we get to do X-Men and we've got access to McAvoy. and Fassbender, etc. I would be really surprised, especially with another X-Men movie happening just as they're probably getting the licenses or getting Fox and having access to that. I think it's a lot more likely that they do an interdimensional crossover kind of thing and they bring them over that way, and maybe slowly over time start shuffling some people out and some people out. But I don't know how to answer that, because even if that's what they did, I can't think of anybody better to play that role. So I don't know. I'm not saying nobody else could play Professor X, but McAvoy's kind of perfect to me. So I have a really tough time with it, with imagining who it would be. And as I always say, I'm really bad. Sorry if this is not a satisfactory answer, but I'm really bad at fan casting, and nobody immediately leaps to mind. Mutale, boy, I'm going to ruin this, so I'm not even going to try the last name. Sorry, but I don't want to butcher your name. Will you hopefully do a spoiler cast for Infinity War? I'm planning on doing that the way we have been, so we may bring a guest or two on for Infinity War, but we've just streamlined how we're doing things on the channel. So the days of the hour and a half, 2 hour spoiler cast live, where I have to, carve out an evening to do it is kind of done. And I'm sorry, folks, I know people really like those, but I just don't have enough time in my week to do. And as you can tell, I'm putting out so much content and do so much stuff. Otherwise, I really need my evenings. And so I don't know. I could, if I made an exception for anything, it would maybe be Infinity War. Right now, there's not plans for that. But we will probably try to bring one or two other people in with us when we do that. So thanks for the interest. I know people really love the old spoiler cast thing, but my life has gotten a great deal easier, and it's made it possible for me to make as much content as I'm making if I don't have to do as many live shows in the evenings. Daniel Davis, thoughts about Spielberg producing Blackhawks film? All I heard was that was it. Somebody sent me a message yesterday and said that Spielberg is apparently producing a Blackhawks film, and that's all I know about it. So that's interesting. That sounds really cool. I don't know what exactly that would end up being. It would be cool if it was set real far back. If it was like a World War I era or earlier, kind of movie. Or I guess another World War II thing. But it would be cool if it was earlier. But yeah, and it'll be curious to see if that gets made. How much supernatural stuff ends up in it. Like, it would be really easy. I don't know a lot about Blackhawks. I think it would be easy to make a movie like that wasn't really supernatural in nature, and kind of just felt like a military movie. But it would be cool if they fought like monsters on a deserted island or something. That's immediately where my head goes when I think of Blackhawks, and I guess some of that is because of things like Justice League New Frontier. Inves, have you read the recent Deadpool arc? Dugan's run is top 3 Deadpool in my opinion. Oh, cool. I hadn't heard anything about his run, so no, I haven't. But I will check it out if you say it's good. Deadpool's weird to me because I used to not care about that character at all and wasn't interested in him and didn't get him. And then I read Joe Kelly, the Deadpool Classic run, and the Deadpool Classic, the first like 5 volumes, and really liked it. Still not really my bag. That's that brand of black comedy that just really, really bleak, uncomfortable, creepy, messed up storytelling is not my bag, but it's so well done, and the story's so well told, and Deadpool's such an interesting character. This guy who really wants to be a hero but is too broken and does not know what that means. He's trying, but he can't do it. Is fascinating, and so I want more of that kind of stuff. And so yeah, I like Deadpool now. I feel like I can finally say that, but I don't keep up with it regularly. I know that with what little I checked into in and out, I know that we're in a better place with Deadpool in general than we were a few years back, where we can tell some more kind of character driven and serious stories with him, even as Deadpool himself is going to be funny and silly. Christopher Miller, thoughts on Gotham's Joker reveal? Please don't tell me about it. I don't even know what that is. I've not been keeping up with the show. Eric and I fell back on that earlier this season, and we have not caught up yet. So please nobody tell me anything, but I got a message again from somebody else today who said I should be watching Gotham because it's picked up again. And I heard something about some big Joker reveal. So I'm interested to finally go back and look at that, but that probably won't happen until after the season's out. Wow, we still have about 15 minutes. It might be in my imagination, but I feel like I'm rattling these off a little bit faster than normal. And I'm suddenly realizing I'm talking really fast right now. I'm always self-conscious about not getting enough questions answered. And so then I'm like, oh, I don't know if people can even understand what I'm saying right now because I'm speaking so quickly. Grady Childs, have you heard that Harry Anderson and R. Lee Aramy died this week? Are you familiar with either of those actors? I'm not sure who the last one is. I would have to look him up. I'm sure I would immediately go, oh yes, of course. Harry Anderson. Yeah, I'm that's Night Court. I think. Yeah, I'm familiar with him. Yeah, the article I read said he died at 65. Which is sad. And but I didn't see. I said the article read. I didn't read an article. I saw a headline, so I'm not sure how he passed. And also Barbara Bush died this week. We lost a lot of important and famous folks this week. I'm gonna answer a few that I'm seeing just popping up right now as Danny gets me some more. Mr. Eli Mack. Hi, Eli Mack. He was in Who Reviews the Reviewers. Congrats to you, buddy, for making it in to that first round. Sorry, I lost my window. He was asking me a question and I was going to answer it. This is why I should just let Danny do his job and not try to get in the middle of this. I've already lost it. Maybe Danny can find that for me. It's already gone. Oh, there it is. Do you see yourself doing videos like the Let's Do It Again series? I would like to do that. I guested on one of those when Eric and Matt were doing those, and I did the Ghostbusters one. It was a lot of fun. I was way too thorough. I start outlining a thing like that. So Let's Do It Again was a series where, if you're not familiar with it, where Eric and his friend Matt, they did this for the channel a couple years back. They would really cool concept for a series. What they would do is they would take a movie and they would either come up with a sequel to it or a remake or a reboot. And we did Ghostbusters, and we were able to do it any way we wanted to. We could either reboot it or we could do Ghostbusters 3. I think we all did a Ghostbusters 3. And I start outlining, what I think would be a cool sequel for that movie, and I start like writing dialogue and stuff. And I was lucky that it didn't just turn into a full blown script. The more I got into that, that was a really fun experience. And go back and listen to that video at some point, if you haven't, and if that sounds interesting to you, because we had a lot of fun with that, and their pitches were both really good too. And actually, now that I think about it, I think there were two because I wasn't able to be on the one that Matt and Eric did. So I think we did a video where I just pitched mine, I think is what it was. But then they did theirs in a separate video. That's how I'm remembering it anyway. I would like to do that. I feel weird about it because Eric and Matt always wanted to get back to that, and some of it was kind of a technical difficulty issue on Matt's end, I think, and so that just hasn't come back. But Eric and I have talked about it, but that was their thing, and I feel weird getting in the middle of it. And so I wouldn't do it on my own. It would have to be with Eric's blessing and with Eric. But I would definitely like to have that experience again, most assuredly. And we get questions about that quite a bit. People really miss that show, and it did really well for us. Kelly Jones, with your love of geek culture being all-encompassing, and and added by a great love of literature / storytelling, I have to ask, why haven't you made a comic yet, Cap? Funny you ask that. I have made the attempt a couple of times. Of course, I can't draw to save my life. And so I obviously have to find a good artist. And I have tried to work with a couple of different people in the past, and things for various reasons just didn't work out with me and an artist, where just people either got too busy or it just, for just various reasons, it would fall through. And I would be working with a person and that had a really great art style, but it didn't quite match. It didn't quite fit what I was trying to do, and so I don't know. It's never panned out. Danny and I are talking about something for possibly next year, and I don't want to talk about yet what it is. It would not be a comic that would be for purchase. It would just be a webcomic to be looked at online, because it would be based on licensed material that we couldn't sell. But it's a thing I've been wanting to do for a long time. And so that may be happening next year. William Parcell, what is your favorite comic book death besides Death of Superman? Wow, that's a great question. immediately I'm thinking of things that ended up not actually being deaths, but I think where we like made a big deal out of this character is dead, but then they're not. Like I think like I really liked what Hickman did with Johnny Storm, but then it turned out, spoiler alert, he wasn't actually dead. But that made it easier to swallow his coming back in 6 months, like we always do. And so I really liked that. But it wasn't a straight up death. I like a lot of what Morrison did with Batman being shot back in time and everybody thinking he's dead. But again, he's not actually dead. I'm trying to think of anybody that really actually died and I loved their death. I like the image of Wolverine's death a lot. I don't think that book's great. I think it's pretty gimmicky and it felt like very much just an excuse to do that. We rarely build up to that kind of thing where it's just the natural course to take a character. It's usually just, and it was this way with Superman 2 to a degree, but I like it better there where we just say, well, what if we just killed him and then we do that story? Because now it just comes from the place of, well, it's always a big deal and we sell a lot of books when we kill a character off. So let's go ahead and do that, as opposed to it's the next logical thing to do with that character, or they just put themselves in a position where that ends up happening to them. Spider-Man in Ultimate, I didn't read everything around that, but I read that issue and then into Miles Morales, and I remember at the time liking that one quite a bit. I know a lot of people didn't, so I might not feel that way about it if I went ahead and went back and read everything around it. But a great question. Game Station 3. When will Batman v Superman get a superhero rewind? That one I'm really excited for. Yeah, that's the $10 million question, isn't it? Because that's going to be a behemoth, and that's going to be wild to try to analyze. And I'm dreading it, folks. Really am. But of course, when we get to it, I will do my level best with it and have as much fun with it as I can. I don't know. It will probably eventually be a Patreon goal, is my thinking, because a lot of people really want that. But I'm not prepared to go ahead and put that on the goal board yet. So that's what'll happen probably. And never fear. I mean, I'm not unrealistic about the Patreon thing. If we get to a point where we get a big giant lull for a long time where we just can't get Patreon up to a certain goal, I'll eventually. It's not like I'm going to wait on BVS for 10 years if we never get up to a certain goal. I mean, I wouldn't do that. It will get reviewed eventually, but I may make that a goal in the next. I don't even want to say when. I don't, because if I say like in the next year, people will be like, "Oh, Captain Logan's going to review that within the next year." I don't want to say that. I took a long time with Rises because I was really dreading reviewing that as well. But this kind of for some different reasons, I guess. But I will probably make that a Patreon goal at some point, and then and then if people really want to see that happen earlier, they can help us out and help us get to it. But yeah, I should also mention what the Patreon goal is for right now. So we are pushing toward 550 at Patreon right now. And when we get to the $550 goal, I'm going to sort of do another revisited thing, but it's going to be a little bit different. So I'm going to finally do a top 50 performance video. So performances in superhero movies, superhero, supervillain, supporting cast, anybody, just what I think are the 50 best, like kind of award-worthy performances in superhero movies, excuse me. And we've had so many of these things now that I think 50 is a good round number. It's not gonna be that hard to come up with 50 really good ones. And I did years ago a top 50 casting choices video, and the idea was it was something of a convoluted idea, really. The idea was actors that were perfect for the roles based on what was in the comics. And I don't want to do it that way this time. I just want to say great performances in superhero movies, and that's what we're going to do at 550. So anyway, I'm excited to finally get to that, and that's going to be a fun list to put together. And I've already started a preliminary list. I've got 15 or 20. So let's see what else. Just a few minutes left, folks. Jack Nicholson should be in the top 10. Yeah, and one go G Stone. One thing I haven't decided yet is if I'm gonna with that list allow for multiple characters played by the same, like the same character played by multiple actors. But if I'm just doing performances as opposed to casting choices, I probably will allow that. It probably doesn't matter who they played so much as how great I thought the performance was. So you could potentially see both Ledger and Nicholson on that list, although there are so many great performances now. I think it is possible Nicholson gets nudged off. It's possible. I don't know. I have a hard time. That feels like blasphemy to me to not put Nicholson on that list. But I guess we'll find out what ends up happening. It's Daniel Davis says it's going to be an epic runtime one way or another. Yeah, that'll be a long video, I'm sure. Okay. Jeer 2112, do you think we will ever see a filmed adaptation of Saga? I mean, Saga is really popular. Yeah, I could see it. I want to say I thought I heard that got optioned at one point, but so many things end up going that way that I don't know. Yeah, possibly. I mean, more than possibly, likely. Then the question is, do they shoot it more or less off the page, or because of how rough and tumble and super adult is that book does it get kind of watered down? I don't know. But if a studio is willing to try, why? I don't see them not. I don't see some studio not trying to make Saga. Hamza, Cap, do you think Electro would work well in the MCU, especially since Peter's suit is tech-based? Do you think that is how you could get rid of the Stark suit? That's an interesting idea, I suppose. I hadn't thought of that. I guess all of that is possible. I just want to see more crossover with Spider-Man villains in the MCU in general, and I want to think that just because of this weird like shared universe without Spider-Man in it, that's not going to preclude characters like Electro from being in Spider-Man movies. Yeah, I'm wondering how much of it is going to be like just Sony gets to certain characters first. So, like, if Sony did make that Sinister Six movie they wanted to make a few years ago, would those characters not be available in MCU? Like it's such a weird situation. But anyway, yeah, I mean, like all of Spider-Man's villains are easy to put into MCU. They all make, I think, most of them, they all make for good potential MCU characters, because so many of them are tech based, or just street thugs that somebody gives technology to, or with alien symbiotes and stuff. But yeah, I mean that's one of the reasons it felt so weird for a long time not to have Spider-Man in the MCU, is that you had all these characters that were perfect for that world. Wow. My mouth's getting dry. I've been talking a long time. I'm gonna do just a couple more. Thanks everybody for being here. I hope you've had a good time. I certainly have. Blue Dragon 5, Cap, what makes a good character beyond redemption after a mistake in their arc? What is the point of no return? That's interesting. Wow. I get a question like this and I want to noodle it for a while before I just start rattling off things. Beyond redemption after a mistake in their arc. So the idea is a character who makes a mistake and can't be redeemed. So like is that what you're saying? The idea of like you have an interesting character arc where we're supposed to still care about what happens to a character even when they go past the point of no return, and then what is that point of no return? Is that your question? Yeah, so as I'm always saying, and I always hesitate because I don't want to be a broken record, but as I'm always saying, character arcs, stories are about what a character wants and whether or not they achieve that, what they learn about themselves, what we learn about them as they try to get whatever it is they're trying to get, achieve whatever they're trying to achieve. And sometimes the thing they're trying to achieve is a noble effort, and sometimes it's a bad thing. Sometimes it's a devious thing, and you can have a and then for it to be a story, that character needs an opportunity for change. So if that character is on the wrong path and wants the wrong thing, and the opportunity they take is to get away from that, then that's then they're redeemed and they're more of a heroic character. You can have a tragic character arc where a person either wants something bad and continues to, never gets their mind changed about it, refuses to change, and they go down the wrong path and horrible things happen to them. And as long as there are A, consequences for the actions that they take, and B, be they're not just a mustache twirling two-dimensional bad guy, and we understand how they got to where they are. They are dictionary definition sympathetic because I understand how they got there, and they are a human being, and you feel for them for getting so far to that point of no return. Point of no return is kind of a case-by-case thing. I have read stories that have made me think that once a character who thought they would never kill does kill, they're past the point of no return. They can't be redeemed now. I've read other stories where a character kills a lot, and there is still a chance for them. And so a lot of it depends on circumstances. A lot of it depends on how well the story is making the case for whatever the whatever the morality of the character, the morality of the piece is. I mean, like with a thing like this, and I don't want to cop out when I say this, but I always kind of have to see the piece before I can say whether it's working and is effective or not. But I think the best way I can answer this is just to say that you can write a story about a character who is the protagonist, is not redeemed, is not wholly likable, and I still care about what happens to them, and I find their story compelling. That's simply a tragic character arc as opposed to a heroic or a redeemable character arc. So yeah, I don't know if that's a good answer, but that's what I've got right now. Jeffrey Patron, non-geeky question: if I'm able to interview John Flansburgh and his it's hilarious. And good luck, Jeffrey, getting the Giants to talk to you. So They Might Be Giants is my favorite rock band. You guys have probably heard that come up a lot lately, mostly because Jeffrey and I share that interest, and he brings up the Giants a lot on the show. And Jeffrey, hardly anybody else knows what we're talking about. But wow, what would I have you ask John Flansburgh? I don't know right off. I almost want to think about it for a while and then send you a message later, because I don't want to say something like lame or basic or not that interesting and then be like, oh wait, no, it would be this. Wow, right off, I'm not sure. Ask him if he still has the old the old machine for dial-a-song and if it still works. Ask him if you still got it. That is, I think that's going to be it for us today, folks. It's already about 10 after here, so that's going to be it. But yeah, it was so much fun talking to you guys. As always, really appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in to the Captain Logan Show, whether you did it live and chatted with me directly, or whether you sent a message, or excuse me, whether I was looking at messages, whether you watch this after the fact, and enjoy the Geekvolution Omnibus as it continues to come out this week, and Superhero Rewind, which just posted today. And in the meantime, you guys are absolutely fabulous. Sure appreciate you. I'm going to go ahead and get going right now, but we'll see you again in just a week. I'll be back again next Wednesday afternoon at 3 o'clock Central Time. So until then, I was Captain Logan, and happy reading and watching and playing and listening and whatever geeky stuff you have going on for the rest of your day.